I'm going to give you, I consider to be 6 amazing steps to create an enormous amount of business momentum. All right, let's just work on really 6 amazing steps that I would do. Because I reckon business is simple. I don't think it's hard. I think it's hard, but it's simple. I think we sometimes make the complex things simple. Because the true test of mastery is that what a master does, he makes very complex things very simple. A professor makes very simple things complex. Because when you simplify things, people get it. It's leverage. First step in building an amazing business, I reckon you've got to know what you want. I reckon the tragedy of mankind is that we never know what we truly want. We have this vagueness about our language that is undefined. We say, I want to grow my business, or I want to make more money. I ask you to describe your business and life in advance of getting there. Visualize it in total specifics. I mean, describe the money, describe the business, describe the turnover, describe the amount of employees, describe the location, describe the culture. And describe it for 1 year, 2 years, and 5 years. I would describe your conversion rate. I would describe your average dollar sale. I would have a science behind everything that I do. Number 2 principle. Take massive action. You know what massive action is? You rip it. You go hard. You're trying to crack a code. Of course you do the low-cost ones first. Of course you actually say which ones don't cost a lot of money. Of course you actually try to build your conversion rate first and your average dollar sale. Build the foundations before you accelerate the car. And the key there is massive. Massive. Next principle in building this amazing business, is that I then have to sit back and measure what we're receiving. So you measure it. And this is guts because it's candour. You know what candour is? Every strategy can be open to constructive dialogue. Just because it's your idea doesn't mean it can't be ripped apart. Next strategy is that anything that doesn't work, because you've measured it, guess what you stop doing? Stop doing it. There's an old saying, if a horse is dead, dismount. Like, it's dead and you're going on this horse saying, go, go, go. Get off it. You're not a tree. If you don't like something, change it. So I reckon I'm going to say it because I did a conference for the vets once, and I just be very guarded. Eliminate the dogs. Right? Well, it didn't go down well in a vet conference. Eliminate the dogs. And here's what I do. Number 5 step. Anything that does work, learn to celebrate small victories. Because when you're an entrepreneur, one of the great weaknesses, and I'm an entrepreneur, is we never actually reward ourselves for achievement. We achieve one thing and then we say, oh, we've got to go again. You know? It's like, wow. I think actually life's a bit of a marathon. It's not a sprint. So I reckon, first of all, I've got to celebrate. Now, what else do you do? Something that does work, you continue doing it. Even if it's dead boring, you are not the judge of whether something is successful. Your customers are. Do you actually know in Harvey Norman right now, I can still tell you when every catalogue is going to come out? And I haven't been there for 10 years. I can tell you the dates. I can tell you the style of catalogue, I can tell you the page number, and I can tell you the size of the thickness of the paper. Because what Harvey Norman used to do is they used to do the same thing over and over again. And after 10 years, it was actually boring. So I celebrate, I continue, I systemize it, because I've just cracked the codes. So when you crack a code, you don't say, oh, well, I'm going to throw away that password and do it all again. That would be nuts. You just crack the code, so you write it down. So celebrate, continue, systemize it, and then you train it to other people, because that's how you get leverage. You say, I've now got the Bible for our business. I'm going to teach you how to do it. And my job is to build the system. And the system looks after the team, and the team looks after the customers, and the customers pay me. And the last thing I do is that if I want to get somewhere really, really quickly, what we did at Harvey Norman, is that if I really want to get somewhere really quickly, I actually understand I get greater leverage when I work out what others have done before me. It's the real acceleration. And I'm telling you, anybody in your industry has written a book about what they've done. And when you write a book, I'm an author, you put everything into it. Mate, you rip your heart into it. There's not the, oh, I'm not going to put that in because I want to sell a $15,000 course. You actually invest your life into writing a book because it's a legacy that you want to share with others. Finally, guys, what happened in 1969? Who was it? Neil Armstrong. Neil Armstrong. And when he landed on the moon, not only did he say, one small step for mankind, man, one great step for mankind, he actually said something that NASA was freaking out about. He said, this one's for you, Mr. Gonski. Now, Gonski? 1969, height of the Cold War. This was just after Bay of Pigs when they thought there was going to be a war. Gonski. And they had no internet at that stage. So all NASA people went through the Britannica trying to find out who was Gonski, because they thought it was like a Russian aviator he was paying homage to. So they get him down and said, Neil, what's the deal? And Neil tells them the story, and he says, guys, this is why I said it. And he asked them specifically, because it had nothing to do with national security, do you mind if you don't share it with anyone else, because Mr. and Mrs. Gonski are still alive? They agreed. 8 years ago, Neil Armstrong was speaking at a stage at a college in America. A young person from the stage in questions and answers says to Neil, Neil, can you tell us about the Gonski story? Because people had heard about it, but he never revealed the story. Now, he felt at that stage, because both Mr. and Mrs. Gonski had recently passed away, he would share the true story of why he said it. This is the story. When Neil Armstrong was 10 years old, he was playing in Florida, and it was hot, baseball in the backyard with his mates. The rules of baseball, like backyard cricket, if you hit the ball over the fence, you have to go and get it. Neil Armstrong was batting, hit the ball over the fence. And next door to him, he jumped the fence. That was the house of Mr. and Mrs. Gonski. And Mr. and Mrs. Gonski were a wonderful Russian-Jewish couple. And Mr. and Mrs. Gonski, it was a hot day, so the windows were open, and they were having a domestic dispute. They were having a fight. And as they were having this conversation, which was very loud, out of the corner of her eye, Mrs. Gonski saw the young Neil Armstrong running across the lawn to pick up the ball and shouted at Mr. Gonski and said the following, sex, you want sex. The next time you have sex is when that little boy lands on the moon. My God, you gotta love that. God bless you.